A great good morning to everyone. Happy Wednesday. What is today? May 10th. Good morning to Art at Home, sponsored by the Great Hoboken Public Library. As always, kudos and many, many thanks to the Hoboken Library for sponsoring this wonderful class, which enables us to do our creative work from the comfort of our home during this time of COVID. Before I start talking about our theme and the artist of focus today, there's a few things that I need to mention. First of all, ground rules. We would all appreciate it if you stay muted. I do welcome comments about the art that we're looking at. And at that point in time, you can definitely unmute. But during the general course of the class, if you could stay muted, it would be greatly appreciated. Second of all, the library has started a comment form process. I have been sending everyone the link. You can also get the link at the Hoboken Library website. And we really do need people to fill that form in. It will enable us to continue the great programming that the library already has and start improving on the programming that we have if need be, and hopefully adding programming if the need arises. Thank you so much to those of you who filled in the comment form already. You are amazingly helpful. Bravo. And the final announcement, no, sorry, two more things. The next announcement is that the library is considering going hybrid in the month of June. This means that there will be the option for local students to come to the library for classes. Those of you who are not yet comfortable for coming in person to class, and for those of you who are attending class from a distance, the class will still be held on Zoom. So hybrid means you will still be able to work from the comfort of your home, but you will also have the option of coming in person. I will be teaching at the library, but I will also be teaching through Zoom so that everyone in this class at this time will be able to attend. You will be able to choose attending in person or through your computer on the Zoom link. This is not definite yet, but it is a possibility that we might start doing this in June. We did it once in the past, and I think it was quite successful. And we're looking to do it in the future. And the final announcement, I did send an email to those of you who are on my email list. I will be going on vacation for a few weeks. You will not be missing Art at Home classes. You will be having a new teacher, Dina Geracia, who many of you are familiar with. She has been running fantastic Zoom lectures with the Hoboken Library on art. Dina is a highly qualified artist and art teacher. She attended Columbia University, where she got her Master's of Fine Arts, and she is currently a docent at the Pierpont Morgan Library and Museum in New York City. In her professional life, she has worked with and known many prominent artists in her lifetime, including a lot of very famous people, but I'll let her tell you all about that when she's teaching you. So she's familiar with teaching via Zoom, and she does have a lot of experience as a teacher herself. Those of you who attended my art class at the Multipurpose Center in Hoboken yesterday got to meet her. And those of you who have been to my in-person classes at the library, you've met her in person, and you can attest to the fact that she's a terrific, wonderful person as well. All right, now we're going to move on to class today. I am thrilled to be continuing our theme for the month of May, which is celebrating the contributions of Asian American and Pacific Island artists. As always, we're going to start by focusing on one particular artist. We're going to talk briefly about her life and her biographical information, and then we're going to look at images of her work. And finally, I'm going to present you with a project that you can create inspired by her work. Today, we're going to look at and talk about the work of the Great Maya Lin. We have spoken about her before in the past. In fact, I think the last time we focused on her for full class was in an in-person class that we had at the Hoboken Library. So some of you are familiar with her. And although I don't usually repeat artists with you, Maya Lin is one of my absolute personal favorites. So bear with me. I believe she's worth talking about again. And she's also extremely important to talk about at this particular time in the history of the United States. And I'm saying that because you can't live in this part of the United States without being aware of the attacks on Asian American people in the streets of New York City and even in our own local areas. Maya Lin is of Chinese American heritage, and many people in New York at the moment have been physically attacked because people believe that they are of Chinese heritage. Asian American people are being targeted for the way they look, basically, for what people believe their ancestry is. And it's really interesting to note about Lin that she didn't even realize that she was of ethnic Chinese background until she was quite old, until she was in her 30s. But she's very proud of her Chinese background, and it really played a very important role in her life and her artistic career, and continues to do so. She was born October 5th, 1959. She is a designer and a sculptor. She went to Yale University, and in fact, while at Yale University, she gained national recognition when at the age of 21, she won the competition to design and build the National Memorial for Vietnam and Vietnam soldiers in Washington, D.C. And she's best known for her historical museums, but she also creates environmentally themed works. And this is why she's a great hero of mine, because of her concern for the environment. And we're going to talk further about that. Many of her pieces speak to the fact that our world is in danger at the moment, and that there are many species and even geological parts of the earth that are disappearing, and disappearing all the time, even as we speak. And her work is trying to memorialize and commemorate all that we are losing through climate change and the climate crisis. So her work is about the environment, but she believes that nothing she creates can ever match the beauty of nature itself. She was born in Athens, Ohio. Her parents emigrated from China, her father in 1948 and her mother in 1949. They settled in Ohio before Lin was born. And her father was a ceramicist and dean of the Ohio University College of Fine Arts. And her mother was a poet, an artist, and professor of literature at Ohio University. Her aunt was an American educated artist and poet, and said to have been the first female architect in modern China. So Lin comes from a long line of creative people. And again, a quote from Lin, she didn't even realize she was ethnically Chinese until later in life, and only in her 30s did she acquire an interest in her cultural background. She didn't have a lot of friends when she was growing up because she loved school. She loved staying at home and studying. And while in high school, she started taking independent study courses at Ohio University, where she learned how to cast in bronze. She graduated high school in 1977 in Plains, Ohio, and then she attended Yale, where she earned her Bachelor's of Arts in 1981 and a Master of Architecture in 1986. And from there, she went on to earn her master's degree in architecture. So she's been concerned with the environment from a very young age, and she attributes this to the fact that she grew up in Ohio, very close to several Indian burial mounds, and she's always been engaged and interested in this interaction between humans and the earth. And so she expresses this in her earthwork, sculptures, and installations. And here's a quote from Lin. She says, "I'm very much a product of the growing awareness about ecology and the environmental movement. I'm very drawn to landscape, and my work is about finding a balance in the landscape, respecting nature, not trying to dominate it. Even the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is an earthwork. All of my work is about slipping things in." I love that. It's about slipping things in, inserting an order or a structuring, yet making an interface so that in the end, rather than a hierarchy, there is a balance and tension between the man-made and the natural. I think that's beautiful. So when she made the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial, she thought of it as a cut or wound in the earth, that through the visiting or the visitation of people to the site and the memories and expression of grief that people would be able to have at the site, the wounds would be able to heal in the earth. And I think that's such a beautiful concept. And according to the scholar Suzette Min, Lin's work uncovers hidden histories, in quote, hidden histories, to bring attention to landscapes and environments that would otherwise be inaccessible to viewers, and, quote, deploys the concept to discuss the inextricable relationship between nature and the built environment. So Lin focuses on this relationship between the impact of humanity on the environment and draws attention to these issues such as global warming, endangered bodies of water, and animal extinction and environment. And she continues to explore that in an ongoing piece that she calls What is Missing? And What is Missing is an installation that is all over the world, and it takes many forms. Some of it is created in sound, some of it is created in earthworks, and some of it is created in sculpture and paperworks. And here's the thing I love about her a lot. She is also on the board of Natural Resources Defense Council, which I think is the most important and effective environmental activist group that's out there. A quick little plug about NRDC. It is a legal organization. It employs lawyers that fight for the earth. Briefly about the Vietnam Memorial, it was very controversial. She was very young when she won it. And because it was a blind competition, meaning no one knew who was applying or whose designs were which when they were submitted to the group who were making the decisions about who the winners were, she won. And she believes to this day, had people known that she was young, that she was Chinese American, that she was inexperienced, she probably would never have been chosen. And in fact, when people found out that she was only 21 and that she was Chinese and female and inexperienced, there was a huge brouhaha. The other thing that people were concerned about was that the memorial did not honor veterans who had survived the war. It was primarily for veterans who had perished in the war. So a compromise was made, and a bronze sculpture, more realistic sculpture, was placed alongside her piece. And people seemed to be okay with the sculpture then. And now the memorial has become one of the most popular memorials in the United States. In fact, the American Institute of Architects in 2007 had a poll which ranked it number 10 on a list of America's favorite architecture, and it is now one of the most visited sites on the National Mall. Many, many people leave items in memory of their loved ones that they lost during the war. And if you've never been there, I really recommend that you go, because it's quite a moving experience. It's just beautiful. All right, and there was a lot of racial animus towards her as well. It's not a secret that Ross Perot, who was at that point a third-party presidential candidate, called her, quote unquote, an egg roll. It was hideous. She calls herself a designer and not an architect. I think that's important to mention. And Lin believes that art should be an act. I think this one's really interesting and really relates to all of you and me as individual artists. She believes that art should be an act of every individual that is willing to say something that is new and not quite familiar. And you know how I'm often saying to you, try and take a risk. It's a little bit like leaping off a cliff. You never know where you're going to land, but you might discover something new. And that is part of the process of making art. And Lin believes in that very strongly. She believes that there's a very large verbal component in her work, and she will do a lot of research first, reading and writing and online research about the site where she's going to do her work before even visiting it and looking at it visually. It kind of helps her to put everything in context so that she can build a concept for the piece that she's going to create. And once she's done all that research, then it makes it more fluid for her to create her piece. She's done many memorials for civil rights, for the environment, and for veterans, as we've mentioned. All right, I think we can start looking at her work now. Just briefly again, I want to mention she started in 2010 her final memorial. It is titled, "What is Missing?" And it commemorates the biodiversity that has been lost in the planet's sixth mass extinction. She aims to raise awareness about the loss of biodiversity and natural habitats. She uses sound, media, science, and art for temporary installations in a web-based project. There's not one specific site. It takes many forms, and it's in many places simultaneously. Several of you visited her ghost forest in New York City. Was it last year, Esty? Yeah, Esty and Heather, I think you both got to see it. I missed it. I'm still kicking myself about that. And that was part of her project, What is Missing? A few things about her personal life. She was married to the late Daniel Wolfe, who was a terrific photographer. It was kind of tragic. He died recently. She has two daughters, India and Rachel. She has an older brother who's a poet. She has many honorary doctorates, Yale, Harvard, Williams College. President Obama awarded her, I think, the Peace Medal and the Arts Medal. Yeah, the National Medal of Arts in 2009 and the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016. They were both awarded to her by President Barack Obama. All right, let's look at her work. I'm not going to show you images of the Vietnam Memorial, I don't think. It's pretty ubiquitous and easy to find, so I don't want to spend time looking at that. I'm not even sure I took a picture of that. Oh, I do have a short video of hers. So let's look at that first. Let's see if we can make that work. Let's see if we have luck in the video department today. If the video fails, we'll just move on to still images. Wait, got that wrong. Here we go. I love showing these videos because there's nothing better than hearing the artist talk about her or his work in their own words. Can you all see the clip?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good.
Yes.
Let's try. It's only almost 3.5 minutes, so it's very short. See if I can make it fit.
I was going to become a field zoologist, and I took a sidetrack into art and architecture. I was brought up in the 60s, child of the 60s, so whether I was like petitioning to boycott Japan for the whale,
Oh dear. Seems to be
Oh,
buffering.
industry or petitioning to ban steel traps. I was out in the parking lot in Athens, Ohio, sort of being a bit of an activist.
I'm sorry, folks. Yikes. Well, oh, wait, let's try this button up here. No, it seems to have frozen for some reason. So what I'm going to recommend, you see this website, Art21. You can easily Google it. And there are 3 video clips of Lin talking about her work, and they're all great. So I don't know what happened to this one. So we're going to stop the share on this. And let's look at some of her work. Just some kind of technical glitch. I apologize for that. And let's look at this baby next. Oh, wait, forgive me. I just did something very weird. I seem to have lost that image. So we're going to try another one. Good. Goody. Here we go. So this, everyone able to see this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Margot. This is a piece made out of paper, and it's, you know, gallery size. It's not mammoth. It's small, comparatively speaking. A lot of her work is monument size, and earthworks that are huge. But this is a small piece. It's a floor piece. It's made out of paper, and it is part of her What is Missing project, and it is replicating the floor of a body of water. So it kind of looks like a mountaintop. It even looks like the flow of water, but it's representing what looks like what it looks like underneath the water. So for example, it might be the sea floor underneath the Atlantic Ocean. This particular one, I think, may be underneath the Hudson River. She has a particular love for the Hudson River and has been working on pieces about the Hudson River. And I think this one is about the Hudson River. I love it because it is so natural looking, even though it's human made. And it's within the realm of possibility for any artist. It's just made out of cut paper. It shows an extraordinary amount of patience stacking it all together to stand like this. I don't even know if she uses adhesive between the pieces. My guess is no. What do you think, folks? No comments?
I would say, knowing her and her work, she probably painstakingly does it herself.
I would agree. I'm with you, Lily. I think she has crafted it in such a way that it's just gravity and friction that's holding the whole thing together. She really, and I failed to mention this when talking about her work, she cares about the environment so much that she only uses materials and media that are non-toxic. So that's another aspect of her work that I love a lot. Okay, let's look at some other things. I'm not even sure what this one is made out of, but I do so love looking at it. I believe this one is made out of salt. Again, this is a small, relatively small piece. It is in a gallery on the floor. And again, this is one of her water, homage to water pieces. And what it must look like underneath the flowing water. I like it. What do other people think? Any comments on this?
Liz, I was looking at her work and I noticed that she uses these materials almost to create something that would naturally appear in nature, but the colors are a little bit off. It's not like it's not sand color, so it's kind of bluish. And this creates like this interesting that you don't know if it is really to represent nature or it's for me that's what stands out because the color it would not be totally what you would expect or encounter on nature, but it brings nature inside the places and to walls.
Yes, Franz May. Excellent. And if you remember from what I was saying earlier, she likes this interplay, this interaction between people and nature and the effects that people have on nature, what humanity does to nature. So this non-natural color that this piece has probably is a way she's conveying that interaction. I think the play of light and shadow on this is quite beautiful also. Love your comments today, everybody. Thank you.
Well, water can look like that also. Like the glaciers have that blue tinge to it, when the light reflects it. So since you said it's an homage to water, maybe she was thinking, of the light on ice.
That
One of
is
the forms of
true.
water.
Yeah, glaciers come in all different colors, in fact.
And the previous piece, I'm sorry, my audio had cut out. What was the material that she used to make that?
I think it's salt, but I'm not absolutely positive. Sorry.
Oh, I meant the first one. Was that fabric or?
No, the first one was paper.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't hear that part.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Not a prob. Who is that, Stephanie? welcome to whomever that was. All right, here's one of my personal favorites. Actually, and it's not upside down, so I'm not quite sure how this one works. But this again is a natural formation, part of her water piece. I think it's on a pedestal. This is the pedestal here in the lower left-hand corner. And the whole thing is balanced on this one upright. And it is cut wood, layers and layers of cut wood. And again, it recreates a land formation, but formation created by the flow of water. She's very concerned about how water is drying up in large parts of the world, the way lakes are disappearing, the way glaciers are disappearing, et cetera, ice from the tops of mountains. So she's trying to create pieces that help us remember what we've lost. This is her concern. You can tell she's all about precision. She does spend a lot of time looking at maps, geological maps. I don't know what kind of wood this is. I just know that it's wood. It's pretty fantastic, the gravity defying quality of it. It's pretty extraordinary. All right, we're going to look at a few more. Maybe we should look at her Vietnam. Let's see if I have a picture of it. Now I seem to have lost. Where's my folder? Oh, here it is. Oh, here's the ghost trees. Let's look at that next. So this was a piece that was in New York. And at least two of our class members today have been to see this or were to see this. Anybody want to share? Esty or Heather, you want to talk about it?
I thought they were so moving because the point of it is that she planted these trees that had been destroyed during Hurricane Sandy, and the salt in the tree, like in the roots, just all the trees. And so they were planted in Madison. Was very eerie because they were
You keep going in and out, Heather. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
And how did it feel walking in and amongst them?
Well, the interesting thing was that there was life around there because people were doing yoga. And so here are these dead trees that were very tall and very eerie looking, but yet there were a lot of people picnicking and doing yoga. So there was life amongst the trees.
Cool. So again, this interplay between humans and nature and the destruction we cause, and yet the joy we take and pleasure, joy and pleasure we take in nature going on at the same time. So this is a very powerful conceptual piece. Wow. So these are dead trees that she, I guess, took from the place where they died and replanted them in New York City.
Liz, they did not look like what we are seeing here. They look like real trunk, humongous trees. I don't know
Right.
exactly what we see here. It's
You know, this may be a drawing representation, the
yeah,
actual piece.
looked like a forest, really. I mean, you could not even imagine which was the dead or the alive one from the bottom.
But they had no leaves, correct?
Yeah, but the trunks were so tall, so but it did not look like, you know, lines of this is nice too.
Yes, I think that this is probably one of her drawings in preparation for the.
Mm. Yeah.
They definitely look like lines drawn on top of a photograph.
Yeah.
So thanks, Esty. That was important. Thank you for sharing that. Both of you. Thank you, Heather and Esty, for sharing your experience. Did anyone else get to visit this? So again, her work is all about memory and the fact that she disturbs nature as little as possible in her work. She venerates nature. She glorifies nature. She tries to get us to be aware of what we're doing to nature, both negative and positive. Let's finish off by, I think I do have one picture of the Vietnam Memorial. I mean, it is, I guess, one of the most important achievements of her life. I don't mean to diminish it. It is beautiful. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. And I do recommend that you go see it. I would love to see the Civil Rights Memorial that she's created. Has anyone visited that? I think, is it in Georgia? I can look that up for us once we get started. Oh, wait, I forgot to open it up.
Is she still creating art? We don't hear too much about her anymore. And it does seem like she's more an artist than just an architect, because the pieces you've shown us are artistic, you know, visual pieces.
Yeah, she's working on art. She's been, since 2010, she's been creating a long-term piece called What is Missing, in which she is creating art to commemorate things that we are losing due to climate change.
Thank you. I heard you mention that before. I didn't realize that was a long-term big project of hers. Thanks.
The piece we just looked at, Ghost Forest, was in New York City last year. So she's having shows all the time. Yes, she is still creating. And here is part of the Vietnam Memorial. It's not the greatest photograph, unfortunately. I should have looked for a better one. This memorial is in a V shape, and it actually is in the earth. It is part of an earth mound. It does not look this sharp and hard edged. The top of the memorial is covered with dirt and grass. So it's a very soft, peaceful place. I think I chose this though, because I wanted everyone to see the objects and artifacts that people leave in memory of their loved ones. And all those objects are saved by the Smithsonian Museum, and they're housed in the National Historic Museum. And that's, looking at that exhibition is, wow, that's an experience in and of itself. I forget how many thousands of names are etched in, and they add names as they become known. And now it's become a memorial for the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan as well. All right. Any final comments about Maya Lin?
Is she designing architectural pieces besides the sculpture work now? I mean, she seems to be, you know, I know her for her architecture work. I didn't realize she was an artist as well.
Yes. And to whom am I speaking? Are you a new person in this class?
I'm E. I've been joining, I joined, I
E.
think,
Hi.
in April. Very
And
interesting.
welcome. I am not aware of her doing any architectural work at this point. Most of her work is focused on the What is Missing project. I believe it is absorbing most of her time and energy and creative outflow. But if anyone wants to research that further, please do. And I would repeat, my job in this class is not to be an art historian. I'm just trying to give you enough information about the particular artist to inspire you to do your own work. And I would love to learn more about Maya Lin as well. She's one of my major heroes. She was trained as an architect, but she refers to herself as a designer. She does not even consider herself to be an architect. But it would be interesting to hear if she's doing any architectural projects at the moment. All right, thanks, E. Thank you, everyone else, for your terrific comments and questions. Our assignment for today, we are going to work on landscape. I have some images that I want to share with you. I thought it would be fun, since we all live on or around, or most of us here, on or around the Hudson River, to look at some images that I saved of the Hudson River. We'll look at them briefly, and then I'm going to put one up on the screen for you to look at. I'm going to talk also about the basics for doing landscape art, and then it is up to you folks to decide how you're going to create your landscape. So here are your options. You can do realistic landscape, you can do an abstract landscape, you can do your landscape in paint, you can do it in colored pencil, you could do it in crayon even if you would like. But think landscape in honor of the environmental work that Maya Lin is doing. Any questions so far? You can do collage. And if you don't like the image that I put up on the screen for you to look at, then you can choose any photographs or pictures that you have of landscapes to work from. Don't try and do something today from memory. I want you to be looking at an actual image to build on your skills of observation today. All right, so a quick look at some pictures that I have saved for us. I'm going to open some up, and then we'll share the screen again briefly. Hudson River is part of our theme for today. The mighty Hudson River. I often say, without the Hudson River, there'd be no United States. If Henry Hudson hadn't traveled all the way up the Hudson River, there would have been no westward expansion. All right, so this is a very bucolic image of the Hudson River. You can see the Adirondacks on the left. I'm not sure what the mountain range is on the right, but I like this image because it is a great way to think about landscapes. There is a very distinct line almost right across the middle of this picture. You see where I'm putting my cursor? I hope everyone can see it. We call that the horizon line. And when I demonstrate how I do my landscape in a few minutes, that's where landscape artists always start in a landscape piece, with the horizon line. You need this horizontal line to dissect your image between your foreground, the bottom front half of your landscape, and your background, the upper back area of the landscape. The other thing to notice in landscapes is, see these rocks in the foreground, in the front of the image, they loom large. In landscapes, you always have your larger shapes in the front, even though you know psychologically these rocks must be infinitely smaller than this cliff on the horizon line in the background. As things recede back into space, they get smaller until right back here at the edge of the horizon line, the mountain is the smallest thing in the picture. And that's how we create the illusion of space, the depth of field in a flat two-dimensional image. The other thing to remember is color. The closer you are to an object or a thing, the more intense the color will be. Even these gray, brown rocks, there's more color and detail in them because they're closer to us visually. The further back you recede in space, the duller and grayer things become, and the less detail you are able to see. So for example, here on the left, you can actually see, you can almost see that there are individual trees on this mountainside here. You can see the cliff face here and some texture on the cliff. But as you move further back along this mountainside, you can see less and less detail, and the color gets duller and duller and duller until you get this mountain on the back of the horizon line that is completely, it's a complete wash of gray. You can barely see it at all. And those are important things to remember in landscape. First, situate your horizon line, then put your larger shapes in front, color and detail in the front, less color and detail as you recede back into space. Foreground big and colorful, background small and gray. All right, let's look at a couple more of these pictures and then we're going to go to work. We'll go to the videotape, as they say in sports. Now I'm going to show you a painting. And this painting is by one of the Hudson River School painters. I don't know which one. I didn't look it up. I'm guessing it's probably Thomas Cole, one of the most famous. There were a lot of female Hudson River School painters who have not gotten any recognition. Thomas Cole was one of the most famous. This one I love because it really demonstrates how to do a landscape well. Again, we have a horizon line, less distinct than in the photograph I just showed you, but the artist has created a division between the sky, the water, and the land. Foreground, Shapes are big, colorful, detailed. Background, hardly any color and absolutely no detail to speak of whatsoever. Things are blurred and gray. That's how this artist created the illusion of depth of field and space in his painting. I'm assuming this is a male artist. I'm pretty sure it's Thomas Cole from the Hudson River School of Art. All right, gather up your tools, your media, your equipment, and while you're doing that, I'm going to choose an image of the Hudson River to put up on the screen. Those of you who want to copy that image for your painting, you may. Those of you who want to refer more literally to Maya Lin's work and copy one of her sculptures in an artwork, you may do that rather than a landscape if you wish. I know Franz May, that's the way you tend to go, and that seems to help you create wonderful art. And you can use any media that you wish. You can use images of landscapes that you personally own rather than looking at the picture I put up on the screen. All right, any last minute questions? If not, get started. I'm going to try and choose a wonderful picture. I went a little crazy with these Hudson River pictures, trying to find a good one. I have many. This one I know is done by a female artist. Let's go with this one. So I'm projecting the painting of the Hudson River. It's by a female artist from the Hudson River School of Painting. Don't ask me her name because I don't know. I just picked the image because I like how it looks. I like it too because it's a little blurry. So if you want to do a hyper realistic copy of this, you'll be unable to. But you can see that it's very detailed in the foreground. And as you go back in space, there's less detailed. There's a whole bunch of tall ships in this as well. And it's harder to see where the horizon line is, but there's a ship here on the left. And that for me is where the horizon line starts. Behind this other tall ship, it's like a 3-masted schooner. And then all the way across underneath this hill. All right. I feel like we're good to go. It is now almost 11 o'clock. That gives us almost a full hour to do our work. I'm going to run, go get some water because I think I'm going to create a watercolor landscape. I'm going to scroll through to see how everybody's doing. Many people have been working already. Awesome. Great. No questions, no problems. Let me check the chat before I go get water. E, that's an interesting question. E is asking, do you need to be artistic to be an architect? I don't know the answer to that, E, but I do know that in my lifetime, in my short little life, I've known quite a few architects who have given up architecture to become sculptors. So whether or not you have to be an artist to become an architect, I don't know, but I do know that architects tend to be very visual people. So great question. And also, how did she not know she was Chinese until such an advanced age? My guess is she led such a sheltered life. It said she preferred being at home, drawing and studying than hanging with people her age. So, I think she had no need to know her background or ancestry. She was pretty much in her house, and there was no reason to know or understand that she was different from a lot of the people around her. It's kind of, in this country, we are so concerned with everyone's background. It's hard to believe that someone could grow up not knowing that they were different from the majority. It does kind of blow one's mind, but she didn't. I'm reading at the moment, for those of you who are fascinated by it, I'm reading an article in last week's New Yorker about the history of genealogy, and the drawbacks and the benefits of learning about our backgrounds and the fascinations that Americans have had with our DNA and how it's contributed to racism in this country. It's a fascinating article. I recommend it highly. How it created the caste system in India too, which I was completely unaware of. I thought the caste system in India was created through cultural practices in India, but nope, lo and behold, it was created through genealogy, the study of genealogy and eugenics. All right, so I got to get water. I will be back in 2 seconds. If you have any questions in the meantime, put them in the chat box or feel free to ask me when I return. Have fun landscaping. When I come back, I will start demonstrating. If you have no idea where to begin, I will start demonstrating how to do it. Start with your horizon line while you're waiting. All right. Now, some people get concerned about making their horizon line perfectly straight. Please let that go. You do not have to make it perfectly straight. The horizon line is just kind of an indicator for you of the space between your background and foreground. And you really should do it lightly in pencil first. The spotlight is not on me, I know, but you can always scroll through your gallery if you need to watch me and find me. So here I go. I'm going to do this. I'm looking at the picture on the screen. The horizon line in this painting is not in the middle. It's a little bit below the middle. And it's definitely not straight. So this is a part of the Hudson where there's a distinct little inward curve, little cove there. Be nice to know where it is. Now I've created my horizon line. You probably can't even see it because I've done it very, very light and pale. And the next thing that I'm going to hop to is this giant tree in the foreground. I want to situate that, and then everything else is going to work around it. I have to try and shift the gallery view so I can see the painting. This is always a challenge. Okay, good. Oh, and before I do that tree, I want to do this little hill here. Top of the little hill. It's probably not the top of a little hill. It must be the top of a cliff. And it kind of mimics the shape of the horizon line. And then the tree. Remember to hold your pencil loosely at this point. You're just working out your composition. It's a beautiful tree. Whoever this artist is really spent a lot of time looking at this tree. So I am not this artist. I can't recreate exactly what she made. I'm using this painting as a reference. I'm not trying to capture what she made. I can't. I'm not her. I'm doing a few scribbly lines to indicate where the foliage is. The Hudson River School artists were famous for their observation of detail. And so is Maya Lin. She spends hours and hours and hours doing research. And that's the shame of not being able to see that video clip. She talks about how much time she spends in research before even going to the drawing board on her work. There appear to be some bushes at the base of this tree. I'll block in where they are. This. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to my horizon line. Trying to decide whether to put in the cows. I don't really feel like it. So I might take some artistic license and leave the cows out. I might put one of them in. I put one cow and one boat. And that's all I feel like doing. So there. The boat is too big. So the boat is going to get diminished. Artistic license is a beautiful thing. If you don't want something in your picture, you can get rid of it. I'm going to try a second time. If I don't want it, I'll try to. Okay, bye-bye. I originally thought this was a tall ship, but no way. This is, I think, just a regular river sloop. Probably tall ships couldn't go this high up the Hudson River anyway. Now I have it about the right size, so I think I'll keep it. Okay, so I'm going to start painting. Oh my gosh. We still have time, but the time is going rapidly. Whoops, some things in the chat. Let me check that. All right, so I may just be able to get started on my painting. I'm gonna now do what we call the wash stage, where I'm just gonna put in very thin washes of color to start blocking out my composition. Oh, paper towels. have over here. Sky in this painting is quite hazy. I'm wondering if it's a hot, hot, hot summer day. It's not a true blue at all, is it? So I'm thinking about my color wheel and mixing my blue with orange to neutralize the brightness of the blue. It's got now a kind of greenish, grayish cast to it. I'm using way more water than paint. Love doing the washes because you can do it very fast and very sloppy. And if you have too much color, you just add more water. And if there's not enough color, you add more paint. And once it dries, you can intensify the color. Add more paint. Near the top of this painting, there's more blue, but as you get closer to the cliff tops, it gets hazier. There's a kind of pinkish glow to the sky too, isn't there? Pinkish, orangey-ish glow at the bottom by the horizon line. It's too red. There's a whole nother ship on that side that I missed because of the gallery view. And you know what? So be it. I'm not going to worry. You can see the way my paint is dripping. I would not recommend doing watercolor painting upright like this. Always best to do it on a flat surface. And at this stage, it's so pale, you can't really see a thing, can you? But that's good. That's the way it should be at this stage. It's just when you do the wash, it's an indicator for the artist where things will fit in your picture. Again, the river is not a true blue. It's more of a pale bluish gray. I'm working with orange and blue again to achieve that neutral color. The river has almost no color. Interesting. Too much orange. This Hudson River school painting was probably done in oils. If you're working in watercolor or acrylics, you're not going to achieve the same effects that this artist has achieved. And now I think I'll go next to the tree trunk. Not really brown. Something to pay attention to when you're painting nature. Tree trunks are more of a grayish color than they are brown. Again, I'm just blocking in the shape of the tree quickly. Details will come later. But the artist has made this tree the focal point of her picture. It's obvious that's where she wants the viewer to look first. She spent a lot of time and energy on this tree. It's well loved. Guessing it's part of what drew her to this location, in fact. So the trunk of the tree is blocked in. And you might be able to see, I don't know, the right side of the tree is lighter than the left because of the way the light is hitting it. And notice too, at this point, I'm using a rather large brush. Fine point brushes I'll use later in the process for small detail. Let's see where we are time-wise. Oops, we have about 5 minutes till sharing. Gosh, today has gone quickly. So just as with my drawing, I'm just very rapidly squishing in where the leaves will go. I'm not at this point interested in accuracy at all. Just want to indicate where they're going to fit in the picture. Even if the color isn't quite right at this point, it doesn't matter. All of that can be fixed at later stages of the painting. Not really a true green in these leaves, though. I'm mixing green with a tiny bit of red. Red and green are opposite each other on the color wheel. And remember, when you mix the primary with its opposite secondary color, in this case, the primary red with its opposite green, you create a more neutral, natural color. The leaves are darker underneath because, of course, less light is hitting them underneath than on top. So more paint on my brush for the leaves underneath, more water on my brush for the leaves that are exposed to the light on top. I'm not stressing about the drips. That's what happens with watercolor. And I love it. I love drips. I love the accidental in art. To me, it's a large part of the joy of creation. So the grass on the hill is a pretty similar color, so I'm just gonna keep going with that since it's on my brush. And start blocking in those areas. Over on this side, there's some red foliage going on. I don't think they're flowers. It's some kind of red leaf bush. That'll be a nice burst of color over here. Different color. Some dark hedges here. Notice that I'm leaving the tiny things like the cow and the ship. That'll be my very last thing to do. And in fact, I may wait until the paper is much drier before I even start working on them. And from what I can see, the hill over here, it too is in shadow and slightly darker. So I'll just get that down pretty fast. Oops, and it's time to stop. So I'm going to put the name of our artist for next week in the chat box, give you a couple more seconds to work, and then we'll do sharing. Where's the chat box? Here. Almost ready for sharing, everybody. Bear with me for one more second. Good. So here we go. I'm going to have to drop the image on the screen. Stop share. Yeah, there's some kind of delay on my machine today. So sorry, everybody, that everything's taking a little bit longer than usual. I have typed the name in the chat box. And there you go. So our next artist is a Korean American artist named Nam June. I believe it's pronounced Pak. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Trying to angle so you can see a little bit of my painting. And Pak is a video artist. So I am not going to be able to send you my usual email in preparation for the next class, since I am going to be in Senegal when I usually send my emails. But you will have the great teacher, Dina Jurasia, to lead you. I have great faith in her, and she will have a terrific project waiting for you next week. And Pak is quite famous in the New York art scene. He's been around for like forever. I'd say he's probably in my age range. Start looking at old videos. I mean, even things like Disney films, and start thinking about scenes in old movies that you love, because that's going to help you for next week's class. All right, sharing time, my favorite part of class. Heather. Yay. Heather eagerly goes to unmute.
Well, I didn't do water, but I saw pictures of Africa today with the dry landscape. It's supposed to be cracked earth.
It's pretty magnificent. This is touching me deeply because I'm a little worried about where my husband actually is from, because it's suffering from desertification.
Well, I saw that today, actually.
Yeah. And the desert is encroaching. I mean, Dakar is a coastal city, but more and more the desert is coming closer and closer. Yeah. We are missing. Thanks, Heather. Beautiful image. Great. I like the way you expanded your foreground like that. It makes it so dramatic. Great. France May.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was looking at my work with nails,
With nails, yeah.
and I try to replicate and create kind of a landscape horizon, something
Wow.
on paper.
Is this a drawing?
Yeah, I used this pens. I don't know the name. It's just like water. This kind of pens here.
Uh-huh.
And then I use a pencil to do this.
Micron. Aren't they called micron pens?
Hmm?
I think they're called micron pens.
Yes, micron.
Yes.
Then I use pencil to create this part and smudge with my finger. But I think I needed to do a lot more.
More. Are you finding it meditative?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
Beautiful, beautiful beginning.
Thank you.
Show me when I come back, please. I want to see it finished. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Pat. Thank you, Francois.
Hi.
Hi.
I continue my portrait and have some landscape at the back. I'm working on it.
Gorgeous. Oh my,
Awesome,
It's-
awesome.
this couple is so lucky.
I hope they like
So
it.
are you almost at completion, do you think?
Yeah, I think I just need to add the background and few touches. But the picture is very limited, very small, so I have to use a lot of my imagination.
Yes.
It's fun.
Really exquisite.
Thank you.
Nice job. And it's all watercolor, Pat, correct?
Oh, no, it's all acrylic.
Acrylic, sorry.
No. It's hard to see on the screen.
It is difficult to tell.
Yeah, but I tried to use the paddle knife. Was it? It's fun on the background. So at least I don't have to do like tedious details on the face.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't used palette knives in a while. We have to, when I come back, I promise.
Yay.
Thanks, Franz May. Margot, you're next.
I don't have anything except from the, what's it called? Senior Center yesterday. I'm still working on my Mandela. You wanna see?
I want to see,
Okay, hold on.
you have to go on camera. Oh, there you are. Okay, good.
I played this game before. Where am I? There we go. You see
Great.
it?
Yup. Great. More color, color.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some more symbols too in the edges.
For those of you who weren't with us yesterday, we looked at the work of the Indian British artist named Anish Kapoor, and then we did mandalas, which are, and we're talking about Southeast Asian India. Mandalas are a cultural tradition in Hindu and Buddhist countries, of which India is one. Thanks, Margot. Great job.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's it. What happened to everyone today? Yikes. Oh, E, are you able to go on camera? No, E has left also. Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns that you want to voice? I want to reassure everyone that Dina is so capable and experienced. She's just a wonderful teacher. We are lucky. We're lucky that she's available to help out.
Yes, Liz, I was going to say maybe in your absence, I'll be sending an email in the next day or two to give them more details, if that helps from once I speak to Dina.
Sure. I mean, if I have time tomorrow, I could send more information, but
Okay,
I can't promise,
no
folks.
problem.
I'm so sorry.
Well, don't apologize. It's an exciting trip. We can't wait to hear all about it. Maybe
It's a trip of a
presentation.
lifetime, and I'm looking forward to coming back with new ideas and new
Yeah. Maybe
things
you
for
and
us to look at.
maybe you and Ibu can do a special presentation for the library as well. That could be a whole nother program.
Oh, what a terrific idea that is.
Yeah, so keep shooting.
Oh, Ibu would be probably thrilled to do that.
We want you to stay safe and, come back home with, I guess, adventures to be told and art to be seen, right? Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are going to the largest art biennial on the continent of Africa. So it's pretty thrilling. And Dakar, to begin with, is the art capital of Africa. There's
Wow.
a lot of great artists. The great African-American artist whom we have talked about, Kehinde Wiley, is now living on and off in Dakar, and he has started a foundation for emerging African and African-American artists to study there.
Please send our congratulatory thoughts to Ibu as well.
Yes, Ibu is one of two diasporan African artists who have been invited to show in this biennial, and he's also showing in a brand new art art museum in Dakar called, I forget what it's called. The National Art Museum, I think. The National Art Museum of African Art, I think is the full and official name. So it's a huge honor for him. I may be bringing it with
How is
to
he
sh-
bringing his art there?
Oh, had to ship it. We have shipped his art. That's a whole nother story. One night, I invite all of you out for a drink and I'll share with you the story of shipping, because Ibu, you know, works quite large. So it was a challenge to ship his work. It was an exciting challenge to ship his work all the way to Africa.
Can't wait to hear.
Yeah, it's a fun story. I'll be happy to share it on our return. I will share all the adventures.
Hey,
All right. Well, we still have about a minute. Anything else? Oh, on my phone, it's 12 noon. It is 12 noon.